Hi, I'm Adam from Watford Opinions on Instagram, and to cut straight to it, Abdoulaye Doucouré has now officially signed for Everton in a deal that's about £22 million. He's signed on a 4-year contract. Last season, in the summer of last season, Watford rejected a bid from Everton of closer to £35 million for Doucouré, and as bad as that loss may seem for Watford, there are obviously financial implications that come with relegation and, even more importantly these days, the coronavirus. So overall, the price seems about fair, and also getting Doucouré's hefty wages off the books will be a great help to Watford. Doucouré joined Watford in 2016 from Rennes in France before he was subsequently loaned out to Granada for the rest of the season. And then the 2016-17 season was his first full season with us. And that season, he didn't really do so well under Mazzari. He made 20 appearances in the league. And then the season after, obviously Mazzari was no longer in charge. He really started to flourish under Marco Silva. Played just about every match. He was an ever-present. And then under Gracia the year after, that's when he really played his best in the 2018-19 season. He was great defensively, offensively, linking the defensive phase to the attacking phase, and he was just a phenomenal player under Gracia. When Sanchez Flores came back, he didn't do so well, as well most of the team didn't, let's be honest. And then once Pearson came in, Pearson moved Doucouré up to more of a number 10 role, which at the beginning worked really well when all of Deulofeu, Dini, and Sarr were healthy. But then as soon as Deulofeu got injured, the entire club's mentality kind of just faded. And he was all right during the run-in, but not really the player he was the first few matches under Pearson. So Doucouré, he does play defensive, attacking, or just bang in the middle of that. For us, I'd say the best span was the first 5 or 6, the festive period matches with Pearson. But he was best in the not too defensive, not too attacking, right in the middle, central midfield role under Gracia, whereas he was the best for us, which is probably where he'll play for Everton. For Everton, I'll talk about Everton first, and what this means for them before I move on to talking about this deal and all the implications for Watford. For Everton, they're also signing James Rodriguez and Allen from Napoli for fees of around the same range. This will see them replacing the likes of Fabian Delph, Andre Gomez, Gylfi Sigurdsson, and Tom Davies in midfield. Not to say those other players won't play, but you have to assume that Allen, James, and Doucouré are going to be their main 3 midfielders. James will undoubtedly play the number 10 because he's not going to play any further back than that, which will obviously see Doucouré playing more of a closer to a 6 role, and he'll be more alongside Allen. Doucouré will probably play in a bit more advanced than Allen, but Everton's midfield for next season is really looking formidable, a force to be reckoned with. And it's definitely an improvement on what they had before. Ancelotti seems like a manager who will work wonders for Doucouré and his playing style. And as I was alluding to before, Doucouré was at his best when Dini, Deulofeu, and Sarr were healthy and all the club was playing at its best. And that might seem something like an obvious statement, but what I'm trying to say is that Doucouré is a player who plays better when he's surrounded by better players, as in he'll play up to the level of the people who's surrounding him, but if the people who are surrounding him aren't doing too well, he'll also drop down. He's never really the player that steps up and shines when no one else is showing up. And I'm not to say he's a poor player at all. No, he was definitely one of our best players. But what I'm saying is, when he's surrounded with the caliber of players that Everton have and are bringing in, he'll probably perform better than how he did in the run-in with Watford. He'll probably be closer to the 2018-19 Gracia Watford quality, which is what Everton bid £35 million for. And for Everton overall, I'd say this is a great signing. A very fair price. Obviously, the coronavirus changes how much he would have gone for, and also Everton have a bit more leverage now that we've been relegated. But I feel it's a fair price. They've got a really good midfielder on their hands. I personally don't totally understand it, getting Allen, James, and Doucouré, as that'll totally ice out players like Davies and Sigurdsson and Gomez, who are also very good. But that's going to be up to Everton to decide what they do with those players. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of them leave, but they now have one of the best midfield units outside of the Big Six in the Premier League, if not the best. For Watford, on his day, as I was saying before, he was one of the best players. Like, if he was at his best, there weren't many other players in the Premier League that you could say, wow, they would have been so much better than him. Now, I'm obviously not saying Doucouré is like De Bruyne or anything, but Doucouré, on his day, was as good as anyone else. But I'm also going to go out and say that Hughes and Capoue, especially this past season, were more consistent than Doucouré. You could always rely on them to give in a solid performance. Sometimes Doucouré would be there and he just didn't seem so present. He wasn't linking the play as he usually does. He wasn't getting back defensively. He wasn't making those runs, which he's known for. It just felt like he wasn't the most consistent. At his best, he was better than Capoue and Hughes, but that best wasn't frequently showing as it used to be. So I feel of the midfielders we had, Hughes was probably the most important to keep, as it seems we will. And he's obviously going to be one of our future he should be the future club captain, or even the club captain this season. But yeah, I think Doucouré, he was a player we could afford to let go of. And then now that he's gone, it obviously opens up a slot for another player to come back in. Now, Ivic, he usually likes to do a flat 4-3-3. But there's always going to be someone in a flat 4-3-3 that's going to be a bit more attacking than the other two, which probably would have been Doucouré if he'd stayed. But now that Doucouré is gone, if you need an attacking midfield player, there's been one name which Watford fans have been calling for more action for a while, and that is Domingos Quina. He's young, bright, has a long shot on him, and now that Watford have dropped down to the Championship, he can really slot in and adapt and play really well. So Doucouré leaving, meaning Quina comes in, is really good signs for Watford and a cause for great excitement. And then it also opens up a spot for the likes of Chalobah, Cleverly, who can play a bit more attacking, and Tom Dele-Bashiru to shine. If we had Doucouré, we can't sub him out. We couldn't have rotation with Doucouré in the squad. Quina's not really getting action if Doucouré is at Watford. Doucouré would have to play most of the 46-game season. He's basically undroppable. He was undroppable in the Premier League. He would have been even more undroppable in the Championship. Yes, it would have been nice to have him in the Championship, but now that he's gone, it allows for a lot more rotation, which we wouldn't really have been able to do if he had stayed. So overall, for us, Doucouré was a really good player. I mean, compared to the squad we had the first season we were up and the squad we had when we got relegated, Doucouré is one of the key players where you just think, wow, it's amazing to think we'd come so far and have quality players like him. He was amazing for us, don't get me wrong, but he's kind of started fading at the end of last season, as with the entire squad. So it's not to signal him out, but I feel at the end of the day, Watford got a good price for him, especially during these financially unsure times. But yeah, Watford fans, it'll be upsetting to see him go, but it also signals a new future, and the likes of Quina can now start getting a lot of action. So personally, I'm not too gutted about this. I'm not really gutted at all. I just think it's a good move for both parties involved. And then for Doucouré himself, I think it's a good transfer for him. He wants to play under Ancelotti, who's one of the best managers in the world. Maybe not anymore, but he definitely used to be. And he could really help Doucouré flourish, as I mentioned before. The one thing that makes me think maybe it's not amazing for him is Doucouré expressed a desire to play European football. Now with the squad Everton have, they're getting all these new players. I think they can truly make a push. But they are the team that finished 12th in the Premier League last season. This isn't a huge leap forward. This isn't like Doucouré is joining Arsenal or a team that's in Europe. He still has a way to go. He still has ways to go. And in a really strong Premier League, there's really no predicting who's going to get that 7th spot. It could be Wolves. It could be Leicester. I mean, Everton don't have the clearest of paths to European football. So Doucouré, if after a season or two, he doesn't make European football with Everton, then maybe he'll look back on this transfer and think, wow, maybe this wasn't the best. But overall, I still think it's a step forward. It's not a huge leap, but it's still a step forward for him and the point he's at in his career. He's a player that doesn't belong in the Championship. He would have been great to have, but a player at his stage in his career, of his quality, should be pushing for European football. So to sum it all up, Watford fans, I mean, we should all be fondly remembering of his time with us. We can be a bit upset about his departure, but we should also be excited for the implications it has in terms of the future younger midfielders coming in. Thank you.